Well, guys, we've seen the rise starting of the streaming services. We've seen Google Stadia come out. We've also seen Xbox now bring Project XCloud into the market as well. What do we feel the future of streaming is going to be when it comes to the world of games by the year 2025? That opens the doors for a lot of opportunities, Corey. What do you think?
Well, you know what? I think I'm going to go back, just over a year now when Scott and yourself were talking about Google Stadia and pre-ordering, and you guys wanted to be on the forefront. You guys wanted the Founders Edition of Stadia. And I know Nate and myself were kind of like, we'll let you guys get it. You let us know how that is, right?
Yep, sure.
So, because cloud gaming was so new, it seemed kind of far-fetched even, right? Like, how can this all happen when we've always needed these consoles in our houses to be able to play these games?
Yeah.
And then, fast forward a year now, Stadia's been out, and then Microsoft comes in with Project xCloud, which now basically operates in the exact same way, other than the fact that you can now access it via your Xbox or, anything, your mobile device. And it's amazing where we've already come with it so quickly, and we're just kind of getting into it, right? Like, I mean, you say 2025, I feel like by that time, that's when things are really going to start to explode, because we're starting to get the technology now that's allowing us to stream games from any device from anywhere in the world. I mean, being able to play a game on my phone, especially nowadays with the phones we all have as smartphones, we have computers, we have big batteries in these phones. We've gone from having, big phones down to small phones. Now we're all back to big phones again with big screens. So, you know what? I know not every game's, optimal for the mobile platform, but there's a ton of games. And I know Xbox has done a pretty good job with xCloud pointing out what games are really good for touch control or mobile driven games, right? So I only can see these libraries for both Stadia and Xbox growing, as the years go on. And it'll be interesting to see how we get, how quickly we get certain AAA titles, right to the cloud services, whether it's, right on Stadia or things coming straight to Xbox. So honestly, going forward, I think the doors are just opening here. We're just on the horizon of what cloud gaming is. And like, there's a ton of people out there that don't even know what cloud gaming is. So the fact that we're making a video like this and even just starting the conversation, I think is what's going to help drive something like this moving forward. And I'm going to throw it to somebody that's got a little more experience, especially with the Stadia. And Scott, what do you think this is going to be like in a few years?
Well, I think you're correct about it. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and we're going to see a whole lot more growth. We've seen a lot of AAA games come into Stadia now, and they're working at just like prime specs and showing off the graphical capabilities, even on an older machine. There's a lot of kind of futuristic gaming happening already. And just opening up a browser for Stadia, it really takes no taxing on your system at all. You can just put out this really good game and have no hardware for it. I think it's a logical next step for a lot of the different game publishers to make it optimized for that kind of a setting. And I think it's only a matter of time. There's a lot that can happen in 4 years. But if we're already seeing Xbox jump into this new market, that tells me that they're detecting the money that's going to be involved in that. And I think they're seeing the dollar signs and acting accordingly. It's really exciting to see what's going to happen next, because Stadia and Xbox, they could be the Coke and Pepsi of the arms race, so to speak. But what's going to be the next kind of company to jump in there? What AAA studios are really going to push these things? And I'm really excited to see that, because I've had a great time with Stadia so far. So I can only imagine that in 4 years, it's going to run a whole lot smoother.
Yeah, man. 4 years from now, that's a good question, Drew. Where do I see it? I think it's going to be pretty huge. The mobile market, it is, it's one of the biggest markets, if not the biggest market for video games in general.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're going to be able to kind of stream, your Game Pass or Stadia's massive library that's forever increasing, it's totally going to be huge. Now, I do see a potential for maybe more of a VR aspect where it doesn't get that big. It kind of has this crowd that's into it, but doesn't really gravitate to it. Like a niche
market?
Personally, like a niche. Like, I don't know necessarily see myself using it too often, but I can't speak for myself in 4 years. Maybe there will be times where I'm going to be wanting to use my phone, where I'm waiting somewhere doing who knows what,
Yeah. No, I think you're right, Nate. I think there's a couple of opportunities that's changing. Honestly, look at how you watch movies. We all stream it, right? We're all on Netflix or HBO or Crave or whatever you're using as a platform to stream your movies, your TV shows, and that's now become the future. A lot of people cut cable and have gone to these OTT platforms instead and gone over to these services. That's how Xbox is starting to set themselves up for the future. PlayStation, we haven't heard anything about yet. They're probably lingering on some R&D right now, figuring out what their next step should be in this. And Google's come out first and said, hey, we're all in. Oh, my phone just kicked in. See, there's Google always listening, right? Because they know what the future's looking like because they can figure it out because they've already jumped in. Now, Scott and I bought day one, and a year later, we've seen a lot of improvements. After talking with Jack Buser over on our show, a lot more improvements are on the way. They have a ton of games coming too. Google is behind this 110% because they feel this is the future. The idea of Stadia was such a future insight at the time, and then the minute we jumped in, like when we played Destiny, or you guys were playing Call of Duty, for example, right? All of a sudden, you guys are hit with an update, and if I just grab my Stadia controller, I literally just turn it on, and away I go. I'm able to play. I don't have to download anything. I don't have to install anything either. This is the beautiful part about streaming platforms. And this is where Stadia has that advantage moving forward because no longer am I waiting. There's a load time to load into the game. I'm not loading and waiting for a download or an update or an install base of some sort. It's already there on the system. And that's where the future of this gaming is going to be. I think that's how Stadia got in. And that's what they're looking at and how they can captivate their audience to start to grow their fan base. I know they've got me, they've got Scott hooked already. And yes, we're still gaming on everything under the sun, but we also can see the future of streaming becoming more of a mainstream platform than having this console in your living room. When's the last time you bought a console for $275? A brand new console. You've never done that. Stadia did it first, right? So that's one of these things. No longer do I have a box in my living room. I have a Chromecast that attaches to the back of my TV, and away I go. Now I can go from my TV to my PC to my phone and continue on. So there's so many other options now to not just go, oh man, I gotta go home to play this game. If I have a laptop, I just plug it in, hit the internet, and away we go. Everywhere's now starting to move into 5G. So that's also helping the progression of cloud gaming as well, right? So by 2025, yeah, Corey, you did mention, and you as well, Nate, about phones and gaming on your phones. There's certain games, dude, if you play Baldur's Gate 3 right now on your phone, that's the last place you are going to want to play that. Yeah. Because you're never going to be able to read anything on there, right? Yeah. It's so small, and that's the main issue. But if you have a tablet or your iPad or a laptop, now that makes a huge difference, and you're able to take that on the go, connected to 5G, and you're all set. The future of gaming is here because Xbox and Stadia have already started. And by 2025, it's just going to be a natural progression. And I wouldn't be too long behind them to see Stadia or PlayStation in there as well to follow behind Stadia and Xbox.
No, definitely.
Definitely, man.
Yeah. So future of gaming is here. What do you guys feel about cloud gaming? We want to know what you think. Hit us up at insidethegame.ca.